Hello, intuitives, and anyone else tuning in. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate all of you that recently subscribed and everybody who takes the time to watch these videos. I'm going to be making videos more regularly now. I came to a decision, the past month has been rough for me. I thought things with my case would be settled by now. I had it in my head for the better part of a year that by the end of October, things would go my way and I'd be able to move on and, get out of this intermittent stage of my life where everything fell apart and was taken from me, and I'm just miserable living where I don't want to live and working a job that I hate and feeling no sense of purpose and dealing with PTSD. So, because of that, there were times where I was going to make a video and I didn't, on the basis of I want to give people advice and help people, but no one in general likes to see somebody when they're down and in their dark moods. But the reality is that everybody has days like that, especially those of us that have suffered some kind of abuse or an INFJ and an NITI loop. And I came to the decision that I have to start forcing myself to make videos when I'm in that state of mind, because if I want people to empathize with other abuse victims, and people that have gone through similar things as me, then they have to empathize with me, and to do that, you have to see it. You have to see what that looks like when PTSD is getting the better of you. You have to see it in order to empathize with what I'm going through and others that relate to these videos. You have to see it. I don't see any other way. So I have to put myself in that position, and I'm going to start doing that. So this video is long overdue, and I've mentioned it in a few other videos, but we're going to discuss the elephant in the room that I'm sure anybody who read my news articles about bullying and hazing probably inferred, and I've mentioned it: PTSD. Am I diagnosed with it? Yes. I have therapy once a week, every Monday, to deal with PTSD. And I want to talk a little bit about PTSD. Before, just one quick message before I get into that is, I thank everybody who watches this channel. Again, I'm doing this to try to help people. This isn't to gain any notoriety. If you haven't realized that, it's just me talking into a camera. I don't have any editing or anything professional. I'm creating this for the sense of the content. And I find that people might be able to relate to that more. That's why this channel is if like I'm having a conversation with somebody, as opposed to professionally made videos with professional editing and all that, and and I don't know how to do it. But I wanted this to be like raw and uncut, so you can see me lose my train of thought or have to think of something, to prove the authenticity and the veracity of everything I'm saying, because real deal INFJ, terrible liar, never went to drama school, so I don't know how to be anybody else. Although there were times where that would have been nice, I think. It's debatable. But I want to get into why I'm making this video, and that's PTSD. So in my case, my PTSD, as most of you know, was caused by, 6 to 8 months of bullying and hazing and retaliation I faced in 2020 while I was a paid member of the Arlington County Fire Department in Virginia, and in the training division assigned to go through the professional firefighter and EMS academy there. Without getting into too much detail about that, because it is a civil court matter, the links to the 2 news stories are on there. There's a few minor errors in there. I only failed 1 test, and that's because it was retaliation and rules were broken, and one day I'll tell the full story, but I can't right now. So pretty much take the articles for what they're worth. If anybody by chance is, really interested in more of the details of what I went through, you can email me and I'll send you, I have a redacted version of the 54-page confidential internal investigation report that was done when I reported the matter that was subsequently released in redacted form wrongly to my abuser, but that's, again, court. But if anybody's really curious, I'll send you the redacted version that I have. It's already gone to the press, and some other people of note that I sent it to, thanking them for inspiration and or, potential help with trying to get a nonprofit off the ground, but that's another matter. So, PTSD. And this is PTSD, from the perspective of an INFJ, because that's what I am. First thing is when you have it, you're usually the last one to know. And in my case, it didn't develop overnight. It developed over months of abuse that was nearly every day for the better part of 8 months. It wears you down. You can ask anybody that I was in the academy with, and they will tell you that when we first started the academy, I was the happiest guy in the world just to be there, because I'd wanted it for 15 years, and it was stolen from me once before in 2006, and there was a recession, and I got shot and had to recover from that and get full use of my leg back, and physical ability stuff, and my dad was dying, and there was all kinds of stuff going on for years, and during some of that time they weren't hiring. But my point is being a professional firefighter is what I wanted more than anything since I was 18 years old, other than unconditional love. When I first got hired in 2006, I accepted that offer to become a professional firefighter over a modeling contract with Kenneth Cole that I would have lost anyway, because, well, that's another story. Sexual assault, big name photographer guy thought he could do what he want. Hothead 19-year-old with integrity got violent. We'll leave that at least for today. But so you can go when someone's targeting you for whatever reason, they'll wear you down. So with PTSD is one of the first things that, looking back, that I know is I went from being a natural leader that people rallied behind, that, would always try to lift other people up, that didn't have any fire and EMS experience, or were a little younger, not used to like a paramilitary strict setting, and they were struggling with that, to basically suffering from imposter syndrome. I started to believe, after months of being told by this one instructor who influenced others behind my back, it's in the report, but that I couldn't do anything right, that, I was put in a position where there was no right answer for me. Like, day to day, even if I tried to use my intuition and get in the head of my abuser and think like, okay, like, his mind's warped, but now I know how he thinks, so I'll operate within that system. But like, what he viewed as right and wrong varied from day to day, so I couldn't even rely on my intuition to follow the pattern of his previous behavior to try to minimize the abuse. It was, either I was kind of the class clown, and I'd make people laugh, because I've mentioned in other videos, when somebody's trying to exploit you or humiliate you, if you can find a way to laugh, that pisses them off, because people that normally do that, they get off on the exploitation of others, and if you take that victory away from them, it's a big thing, But there was nothing right I could do in this situation. Uh, my grades were manipulated. Rules were broken in order to try to get me to fail out. I was set up for things. They tried vainly, I may add, and I thank my classmates for this, they tried vainly to turn the class against me, but instead they rallied behind me more. So this led to, my long-awaited dream turning into a nightmare. The thing I wanted more than anything, I said, besides unconditional love. And it's amazing what you'll put up with for your dream job when you're in a situation where you finally are getting the thing you wanted for so long, and you're in my case, a paramilitary environment where we were flat out told, you can say no, you just won't work here anymore. When you've waited for something for so long and have it in your head you'll never get another chance, it's astounding looking back what you're willing to go through, how you're willing to be treated just to get through that, to be a part of that organization, that profession that you wanted for so long. I wish I would have spoke up sooner, but in my situation, I had to know who saw what. Is it as bad as I think? When people started to approach me and said they were going to speak up on my behalf, that should be a lesson for anybody. If somebody's willing to speak up for you and you're being quiet, if other people think it's bad enough to speak out about, then that's pretty bad and you need to speak up, if not for yourself, because very rarely does an abuser only have one target. In my case, I was the main target. There were other, secondary targets, but dealing with PTSD, the self-doubt, the feeling of worthlessness, the feeling that you can't do anything right, the feeling that no matter what you do, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, there is no right answer. There's no way out. No matter what you do, they're going to find a way to destroy you. People are out to get you. You can't trust anybody. And other things that come with time that I still suffer from today, nightmares about the abuse. My dreams alternate between the fantastical, telekinesis is fun, to the amazing but wildly improbable, and I'm not going to go into detail about that. And then the PTSD nightmares, where one of the common examples would be, I can hear my abuser's voice telling me, and these are things he would actually say to me: you're going to fail out of here. I'm going to make sure that you're not successful. You don't belong here. And I'm on a ladder truck, which is where I wanted to be assigned. And he has me trapped in Chester County, PA, where I live now and hate and have despised my whole life. And I get up the ladder truck, which goes 110 feet in the air, and I'm climbing to try to get over this like huge chain link fence, sort of like an open air prison. And I jump from the ladder to the fence because that's how bad I want out. And I'm climbing the chain link fence, and as I do, the chain link fence just keeps going and going, and I just keep climbing, and it's never ending. It's this never ending climb. And then he's telling me I'll never get out, you won't get away, here you will stay for the rest of your days, and just like basically telling me to just accept my fate, or I'll be in an academy in another fire department, and he'll come in as a guest speaker just to let me know that, the good old boys club will make sure that I'm not successful because I'm dangerous, because I speak out against things that are supposed to be, what you signed up for, or that's how we've always done it, and this is especially true, not just of my abuse, but some of the stuff that others have spoken to me about, particularly female firefighters, and it is absolute hell and disgusting and degrading and wrong how many of them were treated, and far, far too few have spoken up for various reasons. Because in the firefighter culture, paramilitary, you got seniority, you got rank, they can do whatever they want to you, you can't say no. That's how it operates in many cases. They'll try to say otherwise, but if you're not a part of that culture, if you weren't actually in it, you can't see it from the outside looking in. You have to be in the thick of it and be in that environment when it's just, those of us that wear badges, when there's no civilians around, and there's a lot that needs to change. And I don't care what they say, especially Arlington, where they give a big speech when you first get hired about how we're different. We're one of the most progressive departments in the country. We're different here. We don't tolerate bullying and hazing, and this is not a good old boys club. Well, I have a 54-page document and 2 news stories that say exactly opposite that. And one of the things that was used to defend my abuser was the fact that he's a legacy. His grandfather worked here, and his uncle and his cousin. So, and that just pisses me off in general. So merit doesn't matter. Somebody's actions aren't what matters. It's how many family members worked there previously. So that's just basically saying, yeah, nepotism's good. It is just a club. You see that in the government, you see that in the film industry. I abhor old boys clubs and the idea that someone should deserve special treatment based on who they're related to. You think of how many politicians wouldn't have got to office. Yeah, I'm on one here. I'll bring it down in a minute. Would have never got to office if not for their last name. A certain president with a W in his name comes to mind. Or how many people, in the film industry that run their mouth about how great they are only get the direct movies because mommy or daddy or both are famous actors. That's convenient. Or even on a more microcosm, the small business owner who talks about hard work and merit, who inherited a car dealership from his father, and his father was his only boss. These are the kind of things that are, hypocritical and need to be called out. But back to my main point. So that, I gave a brief overview of some of what PTSD has done to me. My therapist has me keeping a journal, and it's to deal with my emotions as they come up. My feelings that no matter what I do, right as I'm about to get something great, it'll be snatched away from me. That no matter what, I'll never get a fair shot. That sense that I lost everything. I did everything right to get there for the second time, and it was snatched away, and I didn't get a fair shot, and they're going to ensure that I never do. I may share some of those journal entries in the future, but that's a part of my recovery from PTSD. Now, I want to get into how PTSD and trauma in general changes specifically in INFJ. So if the INFJ has been through trauma, we can become a little toxic, not with people we're close to, but to ourselves. We're, infamous for being too hard on ourselves, and the abuser will get into our head, especially if they can influence others. Again, imposter syndrome, I suffered from it. It's common with PTSD. We'll isolate ourselves even more. That's another feeling I go through. Is you'll go through stages. Your emotions change; they're fluid. But you'll go through stages where you feel so useless and so worthless. Like you'll start to believe what the abuser was saying, because if they're constantly in your ear for months and they hold power over you, and in my case and in many other cases, they have the power to make or break your career. You that career that you wanted more than anything, you'll comply to just about anything, and they get off on holding that power over you. So coping with trauma, INFJs, our go-to response: bury the negative emotions, push it down until it becomes acid reflux, and seeking out ways to help others instead. Hi. I am way more focused on helping others than myself. I wanted to be a professional firefighter, running a channel to help people. This is how I feel that I have some self-worth and that I'm at least helping others. So I took notes for this one, but that one, yeah, that's not me or anything. We don't find it easy to process the pain since spending too much time in ourselves make us feel selfish, and we're always out to help others. ENFJs, pay attention, because a lot of this is the same for you too, and you struggle to say no more than we do, so pay attention. So we know INFJs, we have a hard time, except around a select group of people, feeling vulnerable or allowing others to see that we're upset or feeling frightened. In my case, and I'll admit this on camera right now, some of my coworkers that thought the bullying and hazing I was going through went too far. Some of these people were combat military veterans, and if they say it goes too far, if the military has their own reputation. They actually approached a superior of ours. They were actually calling me every night because I got to the point where I went from the guy who was so happy to be there that the psychiatrist who gave us the Myers-Briggs and the Berkman test, when he first tested me, when he first met me, he assumed I was an ENFJ because that's how off the wall my FE was. I was just so happy to be there. And then I went to the quiet, barely speaks, hermit mode, INFJ, like I was back in middle school, just observing. And my abuser was given access to this and used that information against me. One of his biggest triggers with me was, he knows how important integrity is for me, so he'd question mine while breaking his own. And also read, he's like, hey, I noticed that, like, you look around the room and you notice little details, and it's like you're putting pieces of a puzzle together. It's like, uh-oh, he knows what NI is. So what was supposed to be he was granted access for to change his behavior, he used as ammo against me. So things got worse after that. There was unfair gradings. INFJs need to know to take care of ourselves. ENFJ is the same way. We can't abandon our own needs. The idea of sharing with somebody can be frightening, but we have to accept that we need to open up to people, and even if it's that select group of people we trust. As I said, that constant feeling of feeling broken, like I'm afraid of that right now. I'm afraid that because of what I went through, I'm just so broken and such a failure. What's the point of me even trying to relate this to somebody? And that'll be a video on a separate topic. I'm going to get into, the difference between people who were like legitimately screwed, victims of circumstance, versus layabouts and malingerers, because there are those of us that, by what we were told our whole lives, did everything right and never got a fair shot for whatever reason. Or I've explained before how integrity comes with a cost, and yeah, yeah, integrity came with hundreds of thousands of dollars it cost for me once, and destroyed a couple careers for doing the right thing. But it helped others, and I stand by those actions. So with someone with PTSD, there's gonna be certain triggers, like I'm an INFJ, so I don't like small talk to begin with, but trying to force small talk, especially repetitive small talk, like when people start talking to me about what I'm making for dinner at 8 in the morning, I don't care. I don't care. I just want to be left alone. Like that's not the kind of things. I have big thoughts of how I can try to help people in my head or advance my own situation. And that is one of the things there that is really exacerbating my PTSD at the moment, is the fact that as far as my case and everything and using it to help others and being able to move on, it's kind of at a standstill. I'm waiting for a court schedule. So when things were moving forward and I could do stuff to help my own case, prevent further retaliation against others, acid reflux, who spoke up, I felt like I had some purpose. Like maybe there was some purpose to what I went through, that I can use my experience to change the system and ensure nobody else has to go through what I went through. And that is the main reason why I went on the news. I really didn't want the attention. Well, I wanted the story to have the attention, not me on a camera. But that's been a struggle now, because I feel like at the moment there's nothing more I can do. That's a sense of hopelessness right there, that there's nothing I can do on my own right now to help settle my situation, that I just have to sit back and wait in a place where I don't want to be. I feel like my life's been on hold for over a year. And those of us with PTSD struggle with the thoughts of, well, it's never going to get any better. I'm too broken this time. You hear the platitude of, when you get knocked down, stand up. Yeah, well, how the fuck do you get back up if you get hit so goddamn hard that you're knocked out cold? Because I've been knocked out. And, all the will in the world and all the pep talk isn't going to get the guy with the concussion up on his feet for more than a second or two before he throws up and falls down again. It's happened. So you have to find little victories. This is what my shrink tells me. You have to find little things that give you some sense of purpose, like for me, making these videos and then potentially helping other people going through similar things, or providing advice to people that I wish I had when I was younger, that they can now have at a younger age, that prevents them from making mistakes and doing things that they'll regret, or letting them know that they're not alone in the kind of people we are. Like, how many INFJ heterosexual, demisexual males are going to admit that on camera? I thought I was the only one. I'm not the only one. There's just not very many of us. So, little victories like that, little things going your way. If your situation advances a little bit, like when I'll get my court schedule, at least I'll have dates. That'll be a victory. Like, okay, this is when this is going to happen. And eventually I'll get a discovery order and be able to uncover a bunch of stuff, and that'll help other people, because things that they don't want to come to light will come to light. Find a way to use your situation to help others is what I recommend for PTSD. Learn about it, learn how to understand what you're going through, and maybe help people that don't understand what you're going through, don't understand the symptoms that they're getting in that state of mind, that they're developing PTSD. And most importantly, stand up for people that are in situations, bad, abusive, exploiting situations that, if left unchecked, will cause PTSD and cause that person to have great regret. One more aspect I want to get into is victim blaming. A lot of us with PTSD were, being the victims, we were blamed. In my situation, when things hit the press, word got to me that high-ranking people in my former fire department said it was no big deal, and I'm just an EDP, which is firefighter talk for emotionally disturbed person. And these people aren't psychological professionals, but instead of fixing the problem and keeping in check the actions of the abusers, we'll just label the victim emotionally disturbed, even though they put him through a battery of psych and polygraph tests to hire him, and never spoke to me in person. They don't know me, but they just know, because it can't be their great organization. It can't be the legacy. He inherited all his relative skills too. Stuff like that. You'll get blamed for, why didn't you speak up sooner? Well, you're in a situation where you flat out told you can't say no, and then if you stand up for yourself, they'll destroy your life. They basically put you in a situation where this is what you signed up for. We're allowed to do this to you. This is part of the game. It's no big deal. This is how we've always done it, and you have to suffer through it somehow. And you have no right to say no. You have no right to stand up for yourself. This is just how it is. If you don't like it, leave, kind of situation. So tradition is upheld a lot, especially in places like the fire service. Things are very slow to change. We had a saying in the fire service, 300 years of tradition unimpeded by progress. I hope that's different in the UK or Ireland. London Bureau of Fire, come on, come on. You know, I know how to use the portable ultrasound machine, because only Arlington and London have those. They're pretty cool. But anyway, don't let yourself be blamed. If you were abused, it's not your fault what you went through. It's not your actions that caused the problem. You're not to blame for not speaking up sooner, especially if you were in a situation where you were basically told what I said, is what it is, and this is what you signed up for, that whole spiel. Don't blame yourself, and don't feel as if you're broken because of what somebody else did to you or put you through. And do not let yourself be judged for being a victim. And if anybody judges you for having been a victim, or put in a position where you were strong-armed into doing something you didn't want to do, anybody that blames you for that or judges you because what you were put through, they should be put on blast. Because no. The only way things change is to speak up about it. It's empowering to speak up about your abuse, because it rips the mask off of the abuser, and it potentially prevents future victims. Additionally, it's the only way to heal. Whether you want to just speak to a shrink, or speak to other people, or speak out on a YouTube video, talking about it is the only way you're going to get through it. Processing those thoughts in a journal, it's the only way, and it takes time. I mean, I have my ups and downs. I go to work every day. I get through life. Am I happy? No, not most of the time. I mean, I've mentioned it in other videos. There were 3 things I wanted out of my life: unconditional love, a job where I can help people and make a decent living, and to live in a progressive city. I had 2. I had the job, and I lived in a progressive city. I had 2. I have none, which is it's a recurring theme I say in therapy, and it's hard, you know. It's hard to have been, quite content with 2 out of 3 to having 0 out of 3, and it's like I got nothing, and I'm getting old. It's like I fought for so long doing the right things, working hard, working overtime, graduating cum laude, getting, certificates and all that crap, and I've yet to get a fair shot. And it's a separate video. And that's why I'm going into too much stuff. This video is getting awfully long. But I want to wrap it up. I'll have future thoughts on PTSD. This is just a brief overview. You can tell I've lost my train of thought a few times. This is a guy with PTSD is also an INFJ, trying to talk about it on camera to help others. I'm doing the best I can. Just remember, it's not your fault. You have every right to speak up. It's empowering to do so, and it'll help others, and it'll show the people will know who the abuser really is. And people should. They shouldn't be able to hide behind how many years on the job they have, how rich they are, how famous they are, who they're related to, who they're friends with. No. No, because when the truth's out, none of that matters. The truth's on your side, and you have every right to speak your truth. And as always trust your intuition, never sell out your integrity, and remember, if you're an abuse victim, it's not your fault, and PTSD does not mean that you're broken.